After watching a video from KevinHelpUs on the topic of Was Kendra Right in the Dead Space Remake, where he goes through why he comes down to the conclusion of her mission being the right course of action, I thought of making this video of what could have happened if Kendra had succeeded in her retrieval mission. So sit back and relax as we delve into the possibilities of what could have come from taking the marker back to Earth. As Kendra is loading the marker on board the executive shuttle, she can hear the falling debris whistling through the air as the continental mass falls through the thin atmospheric layer of Aegis VII. Chunks of rocks and boulders meet the hangar bay, crashing and cracking as they mark their impact. Kendra soon comes face to face with Isaac, who calls out to her. She at first thinks how he could have gotten to her so fast, but negates the thoughts, telling him to stay away. But this is his last chance before a boulder crashes in between the two, giving Kendra the time she needed to retreat back to the shuttle. Isaac continued to call out to her in some level of desperation to bring her back to his side of the matter, but she wasn't interested until she could hear something sliding, squirming, and slithering its way to the edge of the bay. And they both saw as this massive tentacle burst forth from the gaping hole, slamming down onto the metal plating of the floor. Suddenly, as Kendra made her move, so did the hive mind, with the tentacle ripping her from the entrance of the shuttle, whipping her back, which sends her flying backwards onto the metal slats of the lower level. Isaac crawls to Kendra, hoping to save her, and as Kendra pleads with Isaac, the tentacle, which now loomed above her, descended upon her. But Isaac soon uses his stasis to buy the pair more time, and he pulls her away from its assault, as they both watch as the tentacle slowly falls, but quickly retreats back into the hole left behind by the planet's crack. Kendra then smacks Isaac with the butt of her pistol and runs to the shuttle as another massive tentacle cuts Isaac off from her. As Isaac battles the hive mind, Kendra successfully loads the marker aboard. And just as Isaac managed to slay the colossal beast, the engines roared out and the shuttle blasted into the atmosphere, colliding with the mass, which sends the ship flying out into space, and Kendra watches from afar as the mass and the planet's crust soon collide, creating a cataclysmic explosion. Kendra had done it. She had finally succeeded in escaping the nightmare, and not empty-handed. However, this didn't feel like a victory to her, not the feeling she had in mind. Part of her was still disturbed by something. Could it be guilt for leaving Isaac to die, she thought? Or could it be something else she wondered in the emptiness of space? She quickly came back to her senses and shocked outward back to Earth. On the journey through shock space, she could hear a string of sounds. First came a buzzing, then a wheezing, then white noise, before the three conjoined together, forming the voice of someone she once knew. Her brother, who asked, why? Why did she do this? She would try to ignore the symptoms of her growing dementia, but her brother would do something drastic to get her attention. Would you like to watch? He spoke to her. She would tell him to shut up, that he was dead. Dead, am I? The apparition spoke to her. Well, if I am dead, then how can I be speaking to you now? She wouldn't answer, attempting to ignore it. With each word spoken by the apparition, she could feel the pain re-emerging from within herself, just like she had been bleeding internally, and the blood was rising to the surface of her skin. The apparition spoke again. Well, if I am truly dead, then I suppose I should turn. That's when Kendra could hear a crack and a pop. She then turned to see her ghostly brother breaking his limbs, and she couldn't stop herself this time. She wanted to look away from her brother's self-mutilation, but felt transfixed, unable to look away from the torment. As her brother continued, he fell to the floor, and she began to cry for him when a shuffling could be heard. But this time, it was a crunching noise coming from within him, and she would soon witness the transformation of her brother as he turned into a necrotized version of himself. with blood-red eyes akin to that of the red marker symbols. The necrotized apparition pounced towards her, which frightened her, causing her to leap out of the way, which caused the ship to be thrown out of shock space. Somehow, the ship had been soaring outward now, towards the edge of human space, but a proximity warning would blare out amongst the chaos of the cockpit, and when the apparition corners Kendra, it soon grabs her, telling her, demanding that she make them whole again. A single tear would run down her face and across her cheek before she could feel her brother grabbing her by the throat, continuing the phrase, "Make us whole." With each mention of the phrase, the pressure on her throat tightened. Soon she could hear her heart inside her ears. The feeling had been akin to what it would feel like if she had been getting crushed by a snake. She could feel dizziness washing over her mind. The world around her grew darker as she was about to fall unconscious. Suddenly, a massive jolt to the front of the ship could be felt, and the shuttle had collided with a piece of debris, which forced the apparition off of Kendra as she fell to the floor, which knocks her out. As she wakes up, she can see the interior of the shuttle had been torn apart, like some sort of battle had occurred there. She turned to see that she had crashed into a massive asteroid of some kind. She could see the control console had been damaged beyond repair. No, she thought to herself. How am I going to complete my mission now? She shouted in anger. She then saw that only the emergency lights had been working, and thought that she might be able to rewire the ship's mechanics so that the backup power could fuel the communications console rather than the lights. Otherwise, it would be a long time before anyone finds her, and that is one downtime she would rather skip out on. As minutes turned into hours, Kendra continued to work. As the clock ticked by, she refused to rest until she had completed the task, like it had become an obsession for her. She then heard a voice again, but this time, it wasn't her brother. It had been one that made her hair stand up. Isaac had crept up to her, telling her that she isn't an engineer, that all of this was for nothing. Over the hours, Kendra would be assaulted by Isaac's torment. You won't complete the mission, just like the last one. You can't save yourself now. You've doomed them all. Isaac would continue to speak these words until she had finally succeeded. The lights went out, and the room had been dimly illuminated by the command console of the communications panel. Kendra called out a few times with her SOS, hoping to reach someone on the comms. However, with each failed attempt, it was all feeling hopeless. As the day was coming to an end, she would fall over out of sheer frustration and exhaustion. She felt pinned to the floor. She couldn't get up, and she slowly protested about sleeping, but her body didn't respond, and she soon fell into a deep sleep. In the darkness, Kendra would awaken to find herself aboard the Kellion. But this time, there was one notable difference this time. She had been in shackles, with an orange light pointed towards her face, which crackled with an electrical snap. As the gun waited for its owner to pull the trigger, she would look all around to see Hammond, Chen, Johnson, and Isaac surrounding her, just staring at her. You are all dead. You can't be. As she spoke the word dead, the group began to transform into terrifying versions of themselves, turning into necromorphs who began to attack her. She could feel it all. The slicing of her skin, the tearing of her muscles, the shredding of her tendons, and the cracking of her bones. Suddenly, the dream was over and she awoke strapped down to a table. She looked around to see instruments of a medical background and a mirror in front of her. She then saw some sort of instruction on her forehead with a marker symbol present, and her hair had been shaved off her scalp. Suddenly, the front doors blasted open with an assortment of men moving towards her, all looking like surgeons. However, they were oblivious to her conscious state, not caring that she had been awake. They began to prepare for surgery, talking about the marker and the instructions from a higher power. "We need to open her mind," they spoke. She could then feel something as the mirror had been shattered right in front of her. Something sharp. She soon saw Mercer with a scalpel in his hand. She could feel the blade pierce through her skin and muscle right down to her bone. And as she looked, she could see a ripper being prepared to slice straight through to her brain, as it was primed with the engine of this tool revving up and down. The blade span quicker than she could see, as the blade was spinning so fast it wasn't even visible. As she screamed, it came closer and closer, when all of a sudden, she woke up again. This time back inside of the shuttle, when she could see a few sparks on the door. She quickly jumped up to see a ship out in the distance. She couldn't believe it. Someone found her. But could this have been another trick of the marker? The door burst open with a flash, and she soon felt the rush of air being pulled and sucked out of the ship along with her, and once again the world went black around her. As she awoke, she could see someone in a white uniform standing over her, who asks who she is. She would reply that she is called Kendra, and she is on an important mission for EarthGov. Without a word, the man pressed a button on his pad, which pulled her back, restraining her to the bedside. "Your part in this mission is done. Thank you for your duty, Miss Daniels, but we will take it from here. But not to worry, you will be well taken care of once the overseer sees you." The doctors place a mask over her face, and Kendra falls back into a deep sleep. Once again, she awakens to see an old man, this time in a green uniform that seems to be of military design. He thanks her for her work in retrieving the red marker from Aegis VII and asks for her help in a small matter to answer some questions about her exposure to the marker. Kendra agrees to the request as long as she is free to go, and the overseer respectfully agrees to her request. However, as she answers, she soon finds that the overseer wasn't a man of his word, telling him that he said she was free to go. And he said to her that, "You are free to go, Miss Daniels. However, I never said that I couldn't dictate where you would be going, or what you would be doing in the future. This is a grand cause, Kendra. Help us, and the future of humanity will be forever set in stone." Kendra found herself being forced into a containment unit as he spoke, and as he finished his speech, the case slammed shut, locking her away, as she and the marker had been taken to the sprawl. And that is it for part 1, but we will see what happens to Kendra in part 2. At the moment, however, I felt Kendra would have been given the mental blueprint by the marker, if not throughout her time on the Ishimura, then when she had snuck up on Isaac, or possibly when she had been transporting the red marker back to Earth. So this could potentially be a what if Kendra had been the main character scenario for Dead Space 2. However, we will have to see what happens in the second part. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, then hit the like button. Let me know what you thought of this story down below in the comments section, and I look forward to hearing from you. Sign up now to join the British Alliance today by hitting that subscribe button and ring in the notification bell for upload updates. Look in the description for my social media and follow me there, as I will post updates or will talk to people on Discord from time to time. And who knows, it might be you next time. A special thank you to the British Alliance members who joined the memberships for this channel. Your support helps me out so very much. If you would like to become a member of this channel today, to gain exclusive rewards and perks, then hit the join button and see which of the tiers sounds right for you. And I shall see all of you among the cosmos. And be sure to have a good one.